Hello, I'm Danny from Hearts and Minds. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to work with you guys. I hope it evolves to something in the future. I really enjoyed being on stage with you guys at the Hair Expo. I thought that was really cool. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Okay, so let's start it off. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a skin fade with a bit of texture coming forward and a bit of a quiff at the front. I've already washed Pierce's hair down, so it's all nice and clean and it's all nice and damp at the moment. I'm going to cut the top first. The reason being is I like to get my structure in at the top. Not every time, but for this instance I will be. I like to get my structure in at the top, and then it allows me to control the weight on the side, and then I can fade around the top rather than fading and then building the top around what I've done on the sides. That's personally how I prefer to do it. So yeah. So what we'll be doing is taking a center guide, center parting, and what I'm going to be doing is creating, because I want texture, I'm going to be following the head shape, which will be like a round cutting line, just to create texture, and then I'm going to leave it longer at the fringe and get that nice little quiff going over, just to make it easier for them. This is one thing that I find recently with guys like the cool trend still, obviously, but want it easy. They don't have time to do it and get the blow dryer in too much. With partings and stuff like that, you know, what we find is having the parting line put in, like razoring it in, it grows back, it doesn't grow back nicely, and also they want it easy. So if you don't have the line, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult for guys to do it. So I'm just going to be bringing it forward, keeping a square shape visually from the front, and maintain length at the back around the crown area. Okay. So just section off my center guide. Will be a slight disconnection. The tools I'm going to be using today are going to be the Andis Slim Lines, the Andis US Pros, the foilers. I'm going to try and show a few different techniques today, just to kind of show what I can do basically. It doesn't mean I do it all the time, it's more for the purpose of the video. So I've done one side of the head, and now I'm going to be working my way on the other side. What I will be doing at one stage is over directing my guides to maintain the length on his left hand side, just so it helps him with his styling. Towards the back, I like to retain the weight here just to give it a bit of the head more shape, and instead of just taking it straight off. How I do that is by taking sections and over directing it to the previous and following that guideline. And as I come to this side, trying to maintain the weight towards the center. Sometimes I find if I by point cutting it, it helps blend it in a little bit nicer, particularly when you're trying to get some texture. I'm not trying to round it off too much because I'm trying to maintain a little bit of weight around the parietal ridge, just to maintain the squareness visually from the front. So I know Pierce likes to have a flick, make it easy from the side. So I'm not necessarily going to have this the longer bit. you may have it slightly shorter to help him with getting that quiff easel. And cross check. And then when I dry it off later, I'll be personalizing it and adding some more texture into it. So what I like to do now, when I've got the top done, is I like to add a little bit of product into it and then blow dry into shape so then I can build the sides around the top. A little bit of clay, nothing too heavy. And when you put it in damp hair, it's not as strong anyway, so I don't want it to be too crazy for me. When I'm drying, I try and get most of the hair obviously dry, and then I try and dry it in the direction I want it to go. Once I have it dry, I can hit it with a bit of cold air, and that closes the cuticles and sets it into the position that I'm trying to style it. Okay, so I'm going to use my US Pro lithiums. I'm going to start off with my number 2. I'm just going to flick underneath where my guide is from the top and try and see how it's looking, because what I want to do with the fade is maintain darkness towards the top and then lightness throughout the bottom. I could be using a 3 or a 2.5 like I am now. I'm also going to be using my mirror to check for squareness. So I'm changing now to my 3 just because I can see that it's still a little bit light and I still need to take it up just to create that squareness. I know I'll be able to later on with a bit of clipper over comb, but I just want to ensure that I do maintain it and don't get a runaway fade. So things I'm checking for will be squareness visually from the front and balance, particularly around the back. So just for speed purposes, I like to use my 0 instead of always using the trimmer to put in my guide, just because I throw in my 0 line and while I'm there, I just clip it over comb just to save me that little bit of time. The whole time when I'm doing any lines or any 0, any number, any guards, when I'm putting them in, I'm making sure I C-shape. The reason why I'm C-shaping is because the shape, by C-shaping, it helps reduce any lines. And obviously when we're trying to do a fade, you don't want any lines. And it just makes life a little bit easier for me. So what I like to do is I'm always using my mirror. The mirror is your best friend. So when I put in my guide, I can just replicate it on the other side, and that just makes life a little bit easier. So one thing to remember, I always say to people, is don't be afraid to move your client's head into the position that you want it to when you're cutting their hair, because at the end of the day, you need to look after yourself. The client will be, it's not even in an awkward position, but if he was to be in an awkward position for no longer than half an hour, that's better than you being in an awkward position for 8 hours of the day and then, you know, shortening your career lifespan. Always stand back and have a look, because sometimes your vision can be blurred when you're too close. So now that I've put my 0 guide in, I'm going to use the Anders foilers just to clean it all up. And I'm going to be working in a circular motion. As I get towards the 0 line, I'm going to be stopping about 1 finger underneath it, and then that's when I'll change my motion to tapping, and that'll help me with a nice fade blend. All the while I'm using my little Anders brush just to keep it nice and clean. So one thing to think about, not just when you're foiling, but when you're fading, is the skeleton structure of the head. Mastoid, occipital bone. These are all little things that are going to cause you drama when fading. So you need to make a decision. Do you go above or below it? And don't be afraid to stretch out the skin. It doesn't hurt them. So now I'm going to put in my half, my 0.5. As I'm doing it, you'll notice I'm C-shaping just to kind of help me for my next move. Then I'll just close it down and get rid of the zero line. I'm going to change to my US Pros, 1.5 guard, and then I'm going to fade down, which is commonly known as descending fading. So I'm not pressing too hard. Most of the time I'm just kind of using the corners just to etch it out, any dark patches. Using my mirror just to check my fade. As you would see, I've left it heavy on the front there. That's because I'm going to line it in and make nice little arches across the front. For this side, I'm going to do a different technique called guard skipping. So as you can see, I'm using my US Pros, which are quite handy because it's got a beveled edge. So I'm really C-shaping here, creating that, so it's going to be longer than a half. And then I'm just closing it. This is what I would do sometimes when I'm doing a faster fade. I'm just closing my guard, just getting rid of any lines now. So instead of fading down, I'm gonna skip a few guards and do it like that. Then I'm gonna go straight to my 1 guard. I'm gonna open it up. I'm gonna flick using my motion of my wrist, flicking into the 3. I'm not worrying about anywhere else. All I'm concentrating is just below the 3 to try and make that nice light to dark blend. And then I can use my half, which is generally known as refining guard, along with the 1.5 to refine any areas I need to hit. That's just a different technique of guard skipping. Now moving on to the back. I like to do each side first and then I connect it with the back. And I have done 2 different techniques. That's more just to show you guys what I can do. So with the back being more dense, I like to descend. So then what you can do now is you get your refining guards, 1.5 and your half guards, and then you can just go around it and remove any key areas that you need to get. Also, you can use your trimmers and hit them spots as well. And then what I like to do is refine it with scissors at the end. So now I'm just going to personalize it and add a good bit of texture. So I'm just doing some slice cutting now, just to add to the lift around the key areas. Okay, so now once you've kind of cleaned them down and you've done most of it, you can always get your foiler and just have a little look around and just tap it. Okay. So now I'm just going to get some product in it, style it up. For this case, I'm going to use some Slick Gorilla texture powder. We've just got it in recently, so I've been trying it out. Not too bad. And then I always like to finish off with a razor. Some baby powder, I feel, gives it enough lubrication on the blade and it edges it up nicely. New blade. Just getting a few straggly hairs as the foiler gets most of it anyway. And then a nice little warm towel just to finish it off. That's what we do, isn't it? So there you go. Skin fade with a bit of texture, bit of quiff, nothing too hard for the client to style. Thank you. Well lads, that's all from me. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope to hear from you soon. Cheers.